Right, what's happening, people, and welcome back to the Joey Knight podcast. Now, we all know that it is now the international break. None of us really want it, but, you know, it's not the worst thing. We need to qualify for these things. We need friendlies so that the teams can gel together, and England will be playing tonight, as I'm recording this on Friday, against the Ukraine. So let's hope they win tonight, otherwise this video will lose a whole lot of relevance. And another thing I just want to point out quickly, it's about 38 degrees outside, right? So I was thinking, do you know what? As this video goes on, this top's going to get a little bit sweatier and sweatier, and it's happening already. I haven't even done the intro, so please forgive me for the fact I'm going to be sweating profusely in this video, but I do want to get this one out for you. So here are my 5 reasons why I honestly do believe that England can win the upcoming Euros. Number 1 is form. England are, without a doubt, one of the most informed teams coming into this tournament, and that may initially raise a few eyebrows, but I'm asking you the question, what teams do you know that have consistently topped their qualification, have always pretty much topped their group, apart from Russia 2018, where we came second to Belgium, which, you know, came third in that tournament, and not only that, have been deep in every single tournament. You know, you might look at the tournament favourites here in France, and yes, they have been to the final of 2 out of the last 3 major international tournaments, winning one of them. However, when you look at France, they did have an underwhelming Euro 2020 in between. Italy, they won Euro 2020, but then didn't even qualify for the World Cup in 2022. But the one team that always seemed to be there or thereabouts is England. And when you look at the average age of the squad and the fact that they're all now growing into this developing England side, it gives you real reason to see why the bookies are putting us as the second favourites for this tournament. Put it this way, right? If England was a racehorse at the Epsom Derby, I'm probably going to back it. The form books would show me that it is consistently improving its performances time in, time out, and is now coming into this race at its physical peak and prime in age. And I know what you're thinking now. We haven't got better and better each time. We went out in the quarters to France, but let's be honest, that 2022 Winter World Cup were the best performances in a major international tournament that I've ever seen from England, you know. I get that we went out to France, but France ended up losing to Argentina by really, really thin margins in the finals, and I think we proved in that match and in that tournament in general that we can very much sit at the table now with the big boys when it comes to international football. Number 2 is stability. Now, stability is definitely something that this squad have. I know that Gareth Southgate comes under a lot of heavy criticism, and maybe rightly so, when it comes to his squad selection. However, one of the benefits for the most part of sticking with players that you've pretty much used time in, time out since you came into the role is that there is going to be a level of sturdiness and understanding within that squad. England have a ridiculous amount of talent that they can select from, and I know that every single tournament, including this upcoming one, there will be certain fan bases, certain people just in general, who will feel very aggrieved that their favourite players haven't been picked, or players that they've watched over the course of this season and think have done really well won't have made that squad. But let me tell you from personal and somewhat painful experience here, having a load of individual talent doesn't always necessarily translate to how well that team actually gels together on the pitch. But having a squad with genuine harmony, you know, a squad that have travelled together, been through the ups and downs of different emotions in different locations at different tournaments, and coming into this tournament, if you include this one, will be in what, their 3rd, in some cases even 4th international tournament together, can only benefit you. And those are the sort of teams that I see going deep in this format. And that stabilising factor doesn't just lie with the players, but also the manager. If you look at Didier Deschamps at France, I know that he's been there long, but let's look at the other contenders. In the last decade, Spain have had 6 managers, Holland have had 8, Germany will be coming into this with Hansi Flick, and it will be his 2nd tournament. However, let's remember how his first one went. Not very good. Portugal, they're going to be led into this tournament by Roberto Martinez, and it's going to be his first major international tournament in that job, as will his old side Belgium. They'll be led into this tournament by a brand new manager. So what I'm saying is, barring Deschamps, you can't really argue that Gareth Southgate is going to be the manager in this tournament with the most major international tournament experience. Number 3 is depth. Now, here's the big boy point, and this is one of the reasons why I give England such a good chance in this upcoming tournament, because of our ridiculous squad depth. Now, I'm not going to go through and name the whole entire squad that we could possibly take, because that's going to take ages. There's a lot of graphics involved, and it's boiling hot outside. I can't bother to do all that editing. But what I will say is this: if you are interested as to who I would pick as my starting 11, barring injuries, going into this upcoming tournament in Germany, let me know in the comments, and I will produce that sort of video for you before the end of the international break. But let me just talk about the squad depth here, right? So, if we look at, in my lifetime, bearing in mind I was born in 1994, the golden generation, so to speak, of England started in sort of 2002, ended in maybe 2010, right? And I would say the peak of that golden generation was probably 2004 or 2006. Let's go with 2004, the Euros. So I remember the match that England went out to Portugal very, very well. If VAR had been involved, maybe we wouldn't have gone out that match, but knowing our luck, maybe we still would have. Anyway, the starting 11, ridiculously good. Say what you want about the fact that they didn't all get along that well and they didn't really gel together, but in terms of star-studded 11s with huge names that have gone down in the history books, you can't get much better than that. But let me just read you out the bench from that day that we went out to Portugal. So, you got Paul Robinson, Ian Walker, Jamie Carragher, Wayne Bridge, Phil Neville, Owen Hargreaves, Kieran Dyer, Joey Cole, Emil Heskey and Darius Varsell. But then we look at the bench from our last tournament game against France. You got Nick Pope, Aaron Ramsdale, Connor Cody, Eric Dyer, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Kieran Trippier, Calvin Phillips, Conor Gallagher, James Maddison, Mason Mount, Jack Grealish, Marcus Rashford, Raheem Sterling and Callum Wilson. Now I understand straight off the back, due to rule changes in the 2022 World Cup squad, we were allowed 4 more players on the bench. But if you look at the 2004 bench, right, what are the standout names on there, really? Joe Cole, Owen Hargreaves. But then you compare that to Trent, Trippier, Maddison, Rashford, Mount, Grealish, Sterling. I know what bench I would rather have. Number 4 is the competition. So my penultimate point is definitely one that I could genuinely risk upsetting a few people with. And I am sure I will have people in my comment section telling me that I don't know a thing about football. But I've got to be honest, the competition is not what it once was. Although we always speak about England's golden generation and the fact that they should have won something, I don't think that England's golden generation had a divine right purely based on the personnel they had to win anything. Because in my opinion, in the decade or so that spanned from the emergence of the golden generation in 2002, there were so many better teams, you know. Brazil were a better team, Spain were a better team, France had a better team, Italy had a better team, Portugal had a better team, Germany had a better team. The list goes on. But right now, at this moment in time, or I should say by the time the tournament rolls around, who genuinely has a better team than England? I know the first name that will come to all of your minds is France, and I'd probably agree with that. But, you know, we might not meet them until the final anyway, and in a one-off match, anything can happen, you know. We were close to beating them last time. If that Kane penalty goes in, it's a different story. But what I'm saying to you is, if you can genuinely tell me, and please do in the comments if you think there are, who has a better team right now than England? Have you heard the saying that you'll never meet a poor bookmaker? Well, that saying is very, very true, and that's because 99 times out of 100, the bookmakers will always get it right, and the bookmakers have England as the second favourites going into this tournament. Now, context is everything, isn't it? Because one team could have key injuries, they could be on a bad run of form, they could face off against a team that have been on fire. But if we're all playing on a level playing field in one-off matches, I'm telling you now, the bookmakers will make England favourites against Germany, against Holland, against Spain, against Italy, against Croatia, or anyone else, barring France, for that matter. And Gareth Southgate isn't everyone's cup of tea. He does make questionable decisions when it comes to both squad selection and game management, but he has led England to its most successful and strongest point in my lifetime. And for that reason, I genuinely think that we should be going into this tournament believing we can win it. Number 5, my 5th and final reason is Jude Bellingham. Bellingham is an absolute joke, and his presence in this team is the reason why I believe that England can. And do you know what? No, fuck it. I've convinced myself here why I think England will win Euro 2024. In my opinion, never in my lifetime have we gone into a major international tournament with such an absolute game changer in our squad. And look, I was born in 1994. The first tournament that I was like really conscious of and remember the build up to and buying into was probably the World Cup in 2002. And yes, we had a young Michael Owen in that team. He was 22 years old at the time, and obviously he was coming into that tournament off the back of a couple of solid seasons with Liverpool. But notice I say solid and not unbelievable, because the season he had just had, I think he'd only made 26 appearances. He had scored 16 goals, which is a pretty good goal return. But yeah, solid, not unbelievable coming into that exact tournament. Euro 2004, we had Wayne Rooney, and let's be honest, this tournament, unfortunately for us England fans, the way it transpired was peak Rooney at an international tournament. I'm not saying it was peak Rooney, it was far from peak Rooney, but an international tournament, there was never another one like Euro 2004 for Wayne Rooney. He completely lit it up. He was on fire in this tournament, and at only 18 years old, you could argue that maybe he was up there with Jude Bellingham coming into this tournament, but I'm going to tell you why he wasn't. Rooney, at that that age, as brilliant as he was, had just come off the back of 10 Premier League starts for Everton, who finished one place above the relegation zone in the Premier League that season. Jude Bellingham, who will be 21 years old by the time of this tournament, will be coming into this tournament having played more or less every minute available to him in a Real Madrid side. Look, we've already seen how he started off in his first 4 games for Real Madrid, and if you think that this is a flash in the pan, you honestly don't know what you're watching. This boy is unbelievable. He is a powerhouse. He's wise beyond his years. He's carried himself like a man since he was a child, and surprisingly enough, this will be his 3rd major international tournament with England. Honestly, I can already tell from watching Jude Bellingham, hearing him speak, that he's got an elite mentality. He hasn't been overawed going into that Real Madrid dressing room with the likes of Champions League winners and obviously people that he would have grown up watching in, maybe Modric and other players there. It's just ridiculous to see what he's doing. He's only going to get better and better and better, and by the time this tournament rolls round, I think that Jude Bellingham is going to be ready to roll up his sleeves and say, right, I am dragging England to glory in this tournament. And I get it, England, France, Italy, Spain, whoever you are going to need a massive amount of luck on your side when it comes to winning international tournaments, you know. You're going to need to steer clear of injuries and other things that can go on in the camp, and you're going to need key players to be bang at the races from the opening game. But I'll just end it on this, right? If England had have won at Russia 2018, it would have been an absolute fluke. If we had have won Euro 2020, and we almost did, it would have been a shock. And even after all that experience, if we had have won the Winter World Cup 2022, it would have still been a surprise. But for me, Euro 2024 wouldn't. And what you can say is that I'm overly optimistic, but what you can't say is that I don't believe what I'm saying right now, because I honestly believe that this is the tournament that we could finally see England get their hands on a major international honour. And what do I know? I'm probably just some fella talking rubbish on YouTube, and just because I've said all these things, it doesn't mean that we are going to go on to win it. But what I'm saying, and I'm putting it out there now, is it will not surprise me if we go on to win Euro 2024. Anyway, like always, I'm massively excited to know what you lot think about this tournament. How do you think England will fare? If you disagree with everything I've said, that's completely fine. I understand that we've been sort of beaten into submission and conditioned into not believing in the national team, but I truly do, especially after these last few tournaments. So please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, I understand that people that watch this page all the time will realise that this is a complete sort of change of style. I'm normally talking about my beloved club Chelsea, but I did want to cover England during this international break because I do plan on being out there in Germany for the Euros in 2024. So please let me know your thoughts. If you like the content, there's plenty more like this to come, so please do me a massive favour. If you're not already, hit the subscribe button and also click the bell, because then you get notified every time one of my videos goes live, and I will see you all in the next one.